We were talking about truth. Truth? What is truth? Wait till you see this data. Stay tuned. Hello, welcome to the Wealth Transfer. I'm Terry Saka, the Chief Strategist. I know we were talking about truth last week, and truth is what? Well, we're going to get into that, but know that the wealth transfer is about the wealth of the wicked, which would be those of the fiat system, the bankers, and all of those that are anti-Christ. And when I say that, those that are really don't give a rip about God, that's important here because obviously the truth comes from God through Jesus Christ, right? So we want to get into, explain a little bit more about the actual meaning of truth and show you. We've got some great financial data points here today to point out. Now, the mainstream financials will not tell you this. I still hear financial advisors talking people into just now going into the markets. Amazes me, but you will understand why. We as Christians should always have been in tangible assets, especially like silver, our entire life. If we would have since 9/11, we would be superior in our finances considering where we are today. Because silver is our constitutional money, Article 1, Section 8, as well as biblical, because a grain is a grain, an ounce is an ounce. You can't fake it and you can't make it. It's not exciting, though. It's not a quarterly return on an investment, but it's true and it's real. So I'm going to read this real quick. Normally, I just kind of go off the tongue, but my producer gave me this, and it was so well written, I don't think I could have memorized it, so I figured I'm just going to say it, and I'm sure you'll be fine with that. But the entire worldly system, including and especially the financial realm, is under the sway of Lucifer and his army. Now, you know, Lucifer actually was only mentioned one time in the Bible, as in Isaiah 14. And Lucifer really is AKA the destroyer. It's Satan. They're all the same. It's the fallen dark angel. So keep that in mind. It's a war between a lie and a truth. Now, when you believe a lie, you empower the liar and become a prisoner to his way. Now, I really believe the kingdom has done that huge, especially the church. The church has misled the people for so many decades. That's why we were never properly looking after our assets or our finances, because we've been playing on Lucifer's path. Lucifer, the Bible says, the god of the world, Lucifer, Satan, the world is defined as the systems of this financial system. And the fact is, folks, since 9/11, of course, we're superior in our wealth if we've been in God's money, put it that way. So when you believe the truth, you become free. And when the Son is set free, right, of course, you're free indeed. So what are we trying to do here is give truth in the data. What we are doing here is putting data out, and we will not stop with that data. We're here to just show you information that the world financial media just doesn't want to show you. When the time is right for you, make that adjustment. You should have at least a third of what you're doing, minimum. Now, it's a very personal decision, but think of the peace of mind you have knowing this is just stashed away and it can be sold off at any time in the future. But at least you're not at the mercy of a management or a piece of paper. And you will be better off come the future, that's for sure, if you see the big picture that's going on global and economic. So when we get into truth, as we say, let's go into John 8:32. And you shall know the truth, and the truth shall what? Make you free, right? Well, John 14:6, Jesus says unto him, I am, which I love that, by the way. I've had so many open visions with he coming in saying, I am. It's just chilling. I am the way, I am the truth, and the life. No man comes unto the Father but by me. Now, we've all kind of heard this, haven't we, in what that means to be true? Well, what we got into last week is we were talking about this thing called the pineal gland, or pineal gland, as many people like to say. It's this little tiny gland that's in the brain, and the pineal gland happens to be kind of a center of communication into the spirit. And that, of course, goes both ways. It goes into the psychedelic, it goes into the psychic, it goes into the witchcraft and the dark side. But it also goes into our prayers and connection through the Holy Spirit and the power of the Word of God through the shed blood of Jesus Christ. Well, the pineal gland inside the brain looks like this, for those that didn't catch it last week. Yes, this is the eye of Horus. But if you actually see the shape, that is exactly, if you cut the brain in half, what the pineal gland looks like. Now, why did the ancients know so much about the pineal gland? How did they know that somehow there was a connection from this little tiny gland into the spirit realm? What did they know, or how could they have known that? Whereas we in the modern time don't even pay attention to that as much. The only ones who really do will be those on the occult side and these false religion sides, like in the Hinduism, the Buddhism, and the meditations of chakras and such, and has not taken you to truth. Because remember, truth is Jesus Christ only. Now, if our reference of truth isn't based upon God or Jesus Christ, then it's subjective, right? We can define it in any way we want to. The Greeks called this pineal gland in the brain the realm of thought. It's where they got deep into thought. And if you go into Socrates and Aristotle and Homer and you get real deep, the Greeks had some brilliant stuff going on. They knew that there was this somehow ability to tap into the deeper side of humanity, into the realm where, yes, the black magic as well as that to the good, because truth comes by the way of our God Yahweh. Now, the Greeks knew it was the realm of thought, but the ancients knew it as, well, it was called the pine cone. To this very day, you'll see even the Catholic Church, they have numerous references. If you've noticed, look at pictures of a pine cone. That's right, pine cone. Why? Because the pineal gland looks like a pine cone. Now, the ancients, all the way back, if you've never studied back to the Anunnaki, and these are the oldest, and I'm talking these existed literally right there around the same time as the Noah event. It gets deep. You don't get taught it because they were so absolutely brilliant, because they were tapping into things from the fallen ones. They knew things that we humans today couldn't even figure out. But for instance, the Egyptians, here's a depiction of the Egyptians. That thing glowing on their head, that's the tap into the pineal gland. So when you see in hieroglyphics, they're referencing the transcending of thought and the ability to receive knowledge through this pineal gland, right? This is an Egyptian hieroglyphic. This is of the Anunnaki. And the Anunnaki, I'm telling you, this goes back. If you want to study something powerful, study Anunnaki, and that's going to blow you away. But look how he's holding a pine cone, glowing. Now, these are carvings that are actually in cuneiform tablets. And this goes back to times you don't even want to touch into. Here's another one, pineal gland, the pine cone. Do you see how powerful the ancients knew? Now, they knew this well before we even became birthed as humans. Now, we're going to go into more of the financials, but before we do, I am amazed that a lot of Christians have not properly protected and preserved themselves. Now, we have operators standing by right now. Give them a call if you want to. Cornerstone is available right now to help answer questions on how to be diversified. We should always be diversified in tangible assets, and being educated is absolutely paramount in that. And the only way you can start, it's not going to be through your mainstream. It's not going to be through your financial advisors. If you want to have sustained purchasing power and be protected for the future, you have to get into physical, tangible silver. So this would be the best way to do it. Check this out.
Buying power. What does it mean to you and your family? Have you noticed the prices of everything we buy are rising? Goods and services are becoming more expensive, and the money you work so hard for buys less and less and less. If you saved $250,000 in cash in the 1960s, that cash today would be worth approximately the same, $250,000. Yet does it have the same buying power today? No, not even close. Now take that same $250,000 from the 60s saved in silver instead of cash. Today, it would be worth a staggering $4.25 million. Now that's buying power. Protect and preserve your buying power now by rolling over a portion of your IRA into a silver IRA. Use the power of constitutional money silver to protect your standard of living in retirement and maintain the quality of life you are hoping for. The paper dollar you are saving has tremendous challenges ahead, so don't delay. Call Cornerstone Asset Metals now at 888-747-3309. Don't give away your hard-earned savings any longer. Be diversified. Get protected today.
Welcome back. So it's pretty fascinating when you get into the actual Anunnaki. Now, I'm not going to go too deep on this because I have to get into the financial data. But that stuff is fantastic. Like, there is actually carved in these cuneiforms. They had the solar system down before we even knew it existed, but the human eye could only see a few planets. How could they have done that? They knew things. If you see some of these structures around the world, oh, it is unbelievable. So they knew. Now, the reason this is important, they were tapping into the spirit realm where the fallen angels were giving them knowledge. Where do you think most of the knowledge has come from that's coming to man? It's not just because man woke up and decided to be smart. The fallen ones giving us this knowledge. That apple, remember the apple? They will know the difference between the good and evil and be like God, right? They knew this. So the Lucifer, when God said there will be war between the seeds, that is what it's about. Lucifer has always been trying to get us thinking we are our own gods and get us away from that of God through Jesus Christ as our truth. But truth comes from the basic foundation of the Bible. It sets morality in place. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness, right? There's so many that gives us a foundation of truth. And it's that truth that allows us to see. Now, the whole thing with the pineal gland is when you see, you then have truth access from God, and He tells you, yeah, that's actually legitimate. That's actually a lie. But if you don't, you can't see truth. So then you fall trapped to the lies of the financial system. So keep this in mind. John 14:17 said, even the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot see or receive, because it sees Him not, neither knows Him. You see, folks, truth has to be done through Jesus Christ. So for those of you that get into debates with people that are progressive or liberal or communist, socialist, or any of that stuff, don't even try. You can't debate truth if they're antichrists. They can't see it. You see, I'm here to let the kingdom know so you're properly protected and preserved. That's the key. So here we are in financial data. Now, they're telling us everything is awesome. Continue to get in. We're in a big secular bull market. We're going to flop around a little, but everything will be fine. Really? Okay. Don't worry about it, right? Keep in the markets. Here's the Fitch Subprime Auto Loan 60-plus day delinquency index. You notice something there? It is at the highest rate going all the way back to 1998. Higher than in 2008, folks. Now think about that. Auto loans in delinquency. We're at 3.9% unemployment. Everything is doing great. If everything is so good, if they're being so honest and truthful, why are delinquency rates in auto loans higher than they were in the major Great Depression of 2008? Oh, I'm sorry, Great Recession? Really? So are they really being honest about things? That's amazing, by the way. And they just write them off the books. They are playing so many accounting games right now in the banking system. They have multiple layers of accounting now, multiple ways to throw bad loans off to the side so it doesn't affect the bottom line as they report. Corporations, the same thing. The whole thing is rigged. Fine, let it all play out for a while, right? I'm merely saying when those dominoes fall, and they're going to, you want to be properly protected, and you're only going to find that in tangible asset. So the next one I want to show you is in the overvalued stock market. Now, the stock market, this is the third most overvalued stock market in history, or if anything to this chart, going back to the roaring 20s. Now, the only other time it's been higher is really around 9/11 or 2000. If you notice there, we rode all the way up from the 70s all the way to 2000, just burning up all the printed money and expanding. That was the great American dream, the expansion of our wealth and how we Americans just feel so prosperous and we could do anything we want. That's why. This is the third most overvalued stock market. Here's the scary part. It's on the heels of 15 trillion printed new currencies, on the heels of 150 trillion new issued debt in bonds. Do you think the third most overvalued stock market in history is just going to keep going? In lieu of 150 trillion added? When this starts, if you're not properly diversified, you won't be able to get diversified in time. And I really fear for those folks that are in annuities. You think you're okay, but your $250,000 in annuity for the last 10 years isn't $250,000 today, even though you make a pittance of a little monthly income, because it doesn't buy you the same. You ever see gas prices? Right. Food, costs, expenses. Right. So the $250,000 isn't buying you. This doesn't buy you what it used to buy you. That's very important because they trap you in this mindset on a piece of paper that these digits are what your worth is. There's no worth in those digits, folks. Stick with annuities just for a second. Think about it. In 10 years, your $250,000 10 years ago, still $250,000. 10 years ago, the prices were substantially less. Things were cheaper. Go back to 9/11, gas was not even $1, right? Now it's over $3, in some areas more than that. Hundreds of percent more. Your buying power is being depleted. But yet those that own silver, their buying power is the same because silver rises as the paper currency buying power drops. And it's just it. Silver price doesn't move other than that. Yes, it's being manipulated, but wait until the reckoning comes and the reset takes place. So I highly recommend, if you have not thought, which you should be, get protected and preserve yourself properly through tangible assets. It don't even have to go through Cornerstone. It could be anywhere. Just get silver. But I recommend Cornerstone because they have the only First Amendment protected 4.9 purity silver I've ever seen in the country. And they're extremely educated on teaching you how to be diversified and how to protect your IRAs and your 401ks. At least a portion should be diversified. So the best way to do that, yes, get educated. Here's a good place to get started.
Buying power. What does it mean to you and your family? Have you noticed the prices of everything we buy are rising? Goods and services are becoming more expensive, and the money you work so hard for buys less and less and less. If you saved $250,000 in cash in the 1960s, that cash today would be worth approximately the same, $250,000. Yet does it have the same buying power today? No, not even close. Now take that same $250,000 from the 60s saved in silver instead of cash. Today, it would be worth a staggering $4.25 million. Now that's buying power. Protect and preserve your buying power now by rolling over a portion of your IRA into a silver IRA. Use the power of constitutional money silver to protect your standard of living in retirement and maintain the quality of life you are hoping for. The paper dollar you are saving has tremendous challenges ahead, so don't delay. Call Cornerstone Asset Metals now at 888-747-3309. Don't give away your hard-earned savings any longer. Be diversified. Get protected today.
Welcome back. So we just left with showing you the chart that this is the third largest overvalued stock market era going back to the roaring 20s. Think about that. And yet it's on the heels of 150 trillion added to global debt. And you think that's going to be okay going forward? You got to watch this stuff. See, they don't tell us the truth. And the idea here is to show you the truth, let that set you free enough to be diversified, not just in your own life and your family, but your churches and ministries as well. Now, this is what every peak typically was followed by. Oh, that's right, a great recession of some kind, correct? We call this the rich and the poor index. Typically, household net worth, you become rich, stuff's getting better, we're feeling better about life. Look at these couple different peaks right before 2000, right before 2008, and today, which is on the right. Before each of these major recessions we've seen, next to the Shemitah cycle, of course, right? We have had tremendous drops in household wealth to where all of a sudden we lost substantial. In 2008, many people lost 40 to 50% of their wealth. Look at that index on the right today. Higher than 2008. And they're telling you that everything's okay. Go ahead and get in, that it's not a problem. That's not what the data says. Now, the United States corporate debt to what we produce is like our gross domestic product. Look at the debt over these periods. Now, this goes back all the way to 1986. That's the year I graduated. And look at the major recession periods we had, the credit cycle peaks. 1990, the 2000-ish frame, 2008, and look where we're at today on the right. That's right. These four major peaks of corporations going into debt, which is because money was expanding and the loans were cheap. Look where we are right now. That's right. At the highest we've ever been on debt. And what I'm trying to get at is if everything's okay, but yet all of the data charts show we are maxed out higher than we've ever been before, how healthy do you think that is when the markets decide to really sell off? This is the whole point. I'm not talking 10%. I'm talking when it's 40, 50% of a sell-off. How many of those, how much of the cattle trying to get through the gate at once when you have hundreds and hundreds of billions in credit margin debt in the markets? And this type of debt load, how bad do you think the next one is? I say 2008 is going to be so much more, I'm sorry, that's funny. I say the next one's going to be so much more aggressive than 2008 was because we are so much more in debt. And the data is so much higher than it ever was in 2008. Now, what are they showing you in the stock market? They're saying the S&P is booming and things are going great. Really? Do you know that the S&P is controlled literally? The majority of the S&P move is controlled by a handful of stocks or companies. They're known as the FANGs. The top ones would be this: your Amazon, your Apple, your Microsoft, your Netflix. Those would be considered the tops. Now, what's interesting about this, they make up literally 3/4 of the stock market movement. Now, does that sound healthy to you? Now, here's actually a chart of the FANG versus the S&P. Look at that. Look at that divergence. of the FANGs, and you can throw Google in on that mix too. And do you know the majority of them don't even make money? Do you know Amazon loses on every package that they mail out? You know, Netflix, I don't think they've ever made money. So you really have to keep it in perspective. The reason they're booming like this, all the money managers are flooding into the same trades, pushing it up, driving it up with margin debt, fake money. Now, some people say, so what? As long as it's moving, what do I care? This is why you should care. We have an explosive time bomb called maturing debt. The far left here is right now, today, 2018. And this is made up of corporations, high-yield corporate debt, and leverage loan debt. And if you notice, from today going to route to 2023, over the next 5 years, we have explosive hundreds of billions of maturing debt coming due to the tune of $1 trillion. And we have on the heels of this, or leading into it, a correction of, I think, epic proportion. It has to, only because it's been faked the whole time. That maturing debt they have to find the answer to that. They need to pay that back. How are they going to do it? This is big, folks, bigger than you think it is. And that is going to be on the backside, because I believe the correction's coming before that happens. And all of that debt has to be paid back. And how is that going to be? Does that sound like the market is in a truthful place of expansion and low unemployment and everything is great, right? Are they really being truthful to us? And I got to go back to this because I'm going to go back every time. Let me ask you this. Do you want to double your money? Everybody wants to, right? You're in the stock market. Do you want to double your money right now? Okay. You're doubling your money. You know, in the stock market, to double your money today, the stock market has to go to 50,000 because it's right around 25 in the Dow, right? Do you think the Dow's going to 50,000? Let's say you want to buy gold. Gold has to go to $2,600 an ounce. Now, it could, but it's never been there. Do you know silver only has to go to $32 an ounce? It's been there a dozen times in the last 10 years, and you double your money. So what's more probable? Stock market going to 50,000, gold going to 2,600? Or silver to 32. And yet you're in the stock market waiting for what? A 10%, 20% possible profit with all of your wealth? I highly suggest you get diversified at least. Be protected and be preserved. Cornerstone is definitely the place to help educate you with the high level of service and the highest purity of silver I've seen in the country, as well as getting you educated and diversifying your IRA and 401k with an asset that in the end of the day, you can actually have sent home if you decide to. It's not paper and it's not fake. So until next week, I'm going to leave you with this one. That red mountain upside down, yes, is margin debt, credit. And that's the first one to the gate on a sell-off. So until next week, God bless each and every one of you. And remember, stay wise to truth, because what they're telling you is not exactly what's happening. And the data we're showing you here is exactly that. The data, let the truth set you free. God bless each and every one of you. We'll catch you next week.